Welcome and thank you for tuning to our Power in Partnership podcast. I am your host, Jeremy Thomas. I'm a pastor and family counselor. And today we're diving into a topic that, it pretty much hits the heart a little bit. So now and again, you might feel a little, or, might say, you never know. But at the end of the day, we want to focus on power, how we use it, how we share it, and importantly, how it shapes the way we love and relate to each other from time to time. So before we just jump in, I just want 10 seconds, knowing where we are and what we're doing, just to honor those who have passed on due to gender-based violence, domestic violence, and to the right of me, maybe to the left of you, you never know. There's a nice little empty chair with nice little bouquet of decor of flowers, and that represents those who have passed on already. And we just want to just 10 seconds, just to honor those persons that have passed on, and even for the families that are still even grieving over the things that has happened to their loved ones that has passed. So just 10 seconds. All right, so thank you so much for that. And again, my heart goes out to those families that are still grieving, and I pray that God continues to heal you in those moments of silence and of grief. So with that, let's get right into it. So, of course, in the healthiest of relationships, a lot of time, power isn't about dominance or control. It's about collaboration. And this is one of the things that we want to discuss today, is collaboration. It's the kind of power that exists quietly but steadily beneath the surface, the kind that allows both people or persons to show up as their true selves, feeling heard, respected, and also even safe. It's the power that grows when partners support each other's dreams, take responsibility for their actions, and choose teamwork over ego. That kind of power nurtures love. So let's do something for a little bit. This kind of power isn't always the reality. Let's be real. Sometimes what looks like love on the outside could hide something darker beneath on the inside. Unequal dynamics that push one partner to margins that overwhelms them or even silence their voice. One of the things that we need to know is that far too many people, these imbalances aren't just emotional burdens, they are often warning signs of something much more dangerous. And those things lead to domestic violence and sometimes, again, gender-based violence. So, where that is concerned, as domestic violence, it doesn't only show up as a physical abuse. It takes forms of financial control, isolation, monitoring of partners' movements, or messages, manipulating their sense of some reality, or even using love itself as a weapon. Now, these are just distortions of power. They are not only healthy expressions of it, but at the same time, today, we're going to explore both sides of the spectrum. And what we're going to look at truly is just collaboration, or called being collaborative, empowering partnership, and what that actually looks like. So today, let us find a way to see how we could recognize when power has shifted into something toxic, or sometimes that harms rather than heals. So this conversation isn't about just placing a blame. It's about raising awareness. Let's raise some awareness, some way, somehow. And it's about equipping ourselves and our communities with the language, the insight, the narrative, and the compassion to spot the signs of healthy partnership and those of unhealthy controlling dynamics. So because we know that every healthy relationship requires two essential things: shared power and mutual safety. So without these, connection can never thrive in any way. So as we get into it, I'm honored to have an incredible group of people, our guests, my guests, your guests, here today, which will bring a unique perspective as to what is important. And for now, let me introduce them a little bit. I'll go right down the line. First we have Dr. K.E. Nisbett, your very own, a neuroscientist whose work explores how our brain shape and relationships decide how our brain shapes our relationships and decision making, And her insights, of course, she has a long accolade of things, from her master's to a doctorate, and being an activist of her very own in her field. We will definitely hear from her as to how we could understand how power dynamics play out in our minds and in our partnerships. Two, next to me, I have Mr. and Mrs. Kareem Grant, a lovely couple who share their own experiences with navigating power in their relationship and how they balance equality and collaboration, and also the challenges they face along the way. Also with me, I have Mr. Dion Brown. He's a gender officer who advocates for gender equality and supports healthy relationships by addressing the complex role that gender plays in shaping power and partnership. And finally, we have Mr. Kenneth Warner. Kenny, sorry, that's my fault. We have Mr. Kenny Warner, a father, a men's rights activist, and someone who also, I believe, will help us to understand what it is to evolve the role of men, or men in partnerships, and how fathers can be supportive in relationships, all the while promoting shared power. So with that, you lovely people that's here with us today, we will value your perspective. We will value the things that's going to be offered, and I'm excited to dive into the conversation. So let us get started. All right. So first off the bat, again, we're speaking about collaboration, power, empowering partnership. Mr. Kenny, tell me something. As a father, as a men's rights activist, you're right off the bat. Don't be scared. You know what I mean? Tell me, from your perspective, what does a healthy relationship in terms of power, leadership, what does that look like for men with that are in relationships that are intimate? From your perspective, what does that look like to you?
First off, I would say just showing up when you're supposed to, and making sure you're there for your family and whoever is you're responsible for. Showing accountability. Don't always try to pass the blame, and sometimes the buck stops with you. So you have to be able to be an accountable person, and just make sure you're committed to what you do. You put your whole time into your energy into it, and you make sure that whatever you're doing, you do it right, and do it in a way that it's fashionable to other people.
Right.
And then you work together, because it's a team. It's a collaborative effort. You can't do everything by yourself, so you share the load sometimes, and that would help with the whole process.
Do you think men are carrying too much as leaders, not just within a family environment, but just as men in general? Do you think as leaders we are pressured by society and the things that are happening in society?
I would say to some extent, and sometimes you just have to pace yourself and deal with what you can deal with, and put something off for a different time, a better time to do it. But I would say in society is a heavy load on men, and sometimes nobody care about your emotions. You just expect it to be done, and it should be done.
I like how he says sometimes nobody really care about our emotions. Doc, you're the neuroscientist in the room. You deal with chemicals. You understand what happens in our minds, the things that connects and reconnect. I know I didn't give the opportunity to give everybody to just brief themselves as to what they should say for 2 minutes or so, but we'll do that a little bit after. But I because of getting into it, again, from an emotional perspective, psychologically that is as well. Tell us, what are some of these chemicals that allow us to do the things we do, love the way we love, yeah.
Excellent. So the first thing before I answer that, what I want to mention is that what's really important from the neuroscience lens is that our brains are wired for social interaction, for relationships, and for community. And our brains do this by what you said, using brain chemicals. So chemicals like oxytocin is what's important for when we're bonding with other people. Dopamine, that's what drives the reward, why we want to do it, why we're motivated to go and interact with someone else. Endorphins, they do the same thing. And vasopressin also is what helps us to protect that group that we're in, whether it's our family or our couple. And so they really work hand in hand to, have these effects in relationships.
You use some big words here,
right?
And I want our audience to have a breakdown of the oxytocins and all the other things, just break it down a little bit for us in layman terms, so that the 5-year-old baby could even learn some stuff about that. Yes,
fair enough. So oxytocin, all of these are just names of hormones, just like cortisol that you might have heard of, or estrogen, right? And so oxytocin, it's a hormone that is found in the body. It's mainly, we knew of it first for its role in birth. So it's that chemical that allows us to give birth and to feed babies, but it's also really important for social interaction and for that mother bonding to the child. Vasopressin, similar, we see vasopressin in higher levels in males, but it's also important for that social interaction, but also more so we think of it as protecting that in-group relationship. So this is my group, this is my family, I must protect these people. That's vasopressin is in some way mediating that. Dopamine, another, it's not necessarily known as a hormone, but this is more of a brain chemical. It mainly acts in the brain, and it's also important for motivation, reward, etc. Endorphins, so we have natural opioid receptors in our brain. So things like morphine, heroin that people may take as drugs, we have that naturally. Our brain and body creates that, and that's called endorphin. And so that's that thing that elevates after you exercise and you feel really good. That happens in a relationship too. You feel really good. At some points you might even feel great, in your relationship. And so these are hormones and brain chemicals that all work together within healthy relationships, and they can become dysregulated or out of whack, out of balance in an unhealthy relationship. And there's where we can talk about later, adrenaline, cortisol will come into play and work again.
So I like how you put that together. I hope everybody will be able to get it now. As I shift to my lovely couple that's to the right of me, the Grants. Just give me a little bit of your perspective on what a healthy relationship in your view, knowing that you've been married and that kind of thing. In your view, what does that look like as a couple?
Okay, I'll go first.
Anybody, don't fight.
I'm ready, right?
Don't fight. You don't need to say
we are talking a lot about power, and I'm trying to wrap my brain as to, how does that, because that word power in a relationship can go so really, really fast, right? But when I look at power in a relationship, it's not like power as to who's in charge, as to what to do that. It's like power as in the source of energy for this relationship. Like if you have a car, the car needs power to move. So if you have a relationship in like a car, a vehicle, something that needs electricity, something that needs gas, something that needs power, both of you have to come together to get the power, the electricity, whatever it is, you need. And if one person is doing it, they will get burned out. If the other person is doing it alone, they will get burned out. And like when our relationship was young, we were young, teenagers, and females just statistically mature much faster than males. I don't know what's wrong with y'all. Something like that, right? So as a female at that age, young, I was more mature, more advanced. So I was the one who's like, we should do this. What about college? What about this? What about that? And then as we got older and he became a man, you can just release your power. Not power, but you know what I'm saying. So when it comes to collaboration, it depends on the stage of the relationship, yes, but to me, power is working together to get your relationship moving, if that makes sense.
So, Grant, you want to jump in a little bit?
Yes, could you ask the question again, please?
From your perspective,
yes.
What does it look like for you as a healthy relationship as a couple?
Okay. Well, in a healthy relationship, you're supposed to be able to relax.
Yeah.
I know for sure when Julian comes home, there's no pressure. You're supposed to feel comfortable. You're supposed to be at home. Home is supposed to be a safe place. When you're on your partner, you shouldn't be walking on eggshells. So if you have to walk on eggshells, you're not in a healthy relationship. So just to have a connection. I don't know. We've been together since we're teenagers, as you said, and that's almost 20 years ago. 20 years ago, basically, we've been together. So we were friends first, and we actually like each other. So sometimes people get in a relationship but they don't like each other. But we actually like each other, even though we're not husband and wife, we're still friends. I would still send her a meme, even though I'm vexed with her. I say, oh, ma'am, I forget I'm vexed with you. So I send her the meme and say, I repeat that I forgot we had a disagreement. So that's how it's supposed to be.
Right.
Just relax.
And I totally agree. Dion, men as men, we view relationships, we view things in society that are totally different when it pertains to power and just an understanding as to just trying to find the right word. How do we really within relationships? How is it as a gender-based officer who's in the field all the time and dealing with men? What are some of the things that come across your mind, your feel sometimes, where the perspective of men and love and how they see it, what do they view it as in your? Is it okay? Is it far off the spectrum? Is it just they just don't care? Give me something along those lines.
Well, thank you for asking that question, and to my fellow panelists, thank you for being here. In terms of the question that you asked, I think that all of us as human beings wants to feel loved, right? We want to love somebody, and I think the neuroscientists can speak about that some more. We have that in us. We are wired to be loved and to feel like we're going to belong. We want to belong, and that's why you see sometimes your boys join gangs and so on, because they want that love. Naturally, that's who we are. So every man wants to be loved. They want to be loved by a woman. They want to be loved by their children. They want to be loved by their family members, right? But when we speak about power as men, I think sometimes the way that we are socialized, we think that power is equates to strength, right? Just being strong physically, but it don't necessarily means that. In fact, power is a neutral force, and it has the ability to. It depends on how you use that power, right? Whether you use that power to control other than to collaborate, right? And so it's up to us. We have power. We are wired for power. All of us have power inside of us, right? So it just depends on how we decide to use that power that we have. So in relationships, we have both parties have power in that relationship, and that power comes with it's not just say that it's a physical strength. It's about vulnerability, how you share lives, how you share your voices, how you share spaces, right? And that speaks about how you collaborate within each other. And we're not just talking about intimate relationship. We have a married couple here, right? But we are talking about friendships as well. We are talking about your co-workers, work relationships. We are talking about. So it's really how you collaborate with each other as human beings. As men, like I said, we are socialized differently, and we view things differently, right? I know that Mrs. Grant says she don't understand why we mature later than men, and I'm sure the neuroscientists can speak to that as well. But we are made different. Men and women are made, and sometimes we don't really get that, right? I know there is study being happening that says that maybe males need to start school later than females, because our brains genuinely mature slower than female brains. Yes, so that's just a fact, right? We can't avoid that, right? So I think that we need our women, our females, to help us. So that power also speak about support, right? Ask that power to be vulnerable and ask for support, ask for help. And we as men sometimes don't like to do that. And we see asking for help as weakness, right? And that's not necessarily true. It takes more strength to ask for help. Right, you have to work up that courage to ask somebody else for help, because we like to think that we have it on our own, and we have a misconception of what power really is. And like I said, power is a neutral force. It depends on how we try to wield that power. And I think we should wield it in times to be vulnerable, to ask for help, seek support, and to encourage each other, whether that is in an intimate relationship, a marriage relationship, or work relationship, or just friendship, right? So that's what I would say.
Good stuff. Thank you so much for that. So with that being said, to the diaspora of those that are listening and the audience that's here, we want to take a quick break, and we will be back to Power in Partnerships in just a few.
This International Men's Day, we celebrate fathers and father figures who choose to show up, not just in presence, but in love, time, and care.
Glenn, I really admire when fathers show up for their children physically and emotionally. I really begin right from the start, right from birth.
And I have to agree with you right there. I think when fathers are a part of the process from the very inception, it creates a long-lasting bond. When they're changing the diapers, when they're cuddling, they're comforting, when they're even helping mom, it's really a good thing to see, to watch.
I feel it's about being present. Really being present at their events, at their activities, and to cheer them on as well, and congratulate them when they do well.
The children have homework, they have projects, even just a quick check-in. Hey, how was your day? I think a little bit of encouragement from father could really boost a child's confidence, and they feel better about themselves daily.
It's a good look, right? I see them jumping out the vehicle and they're taking them into preschool or primary school or even high school, right? And they're walking together holding hands, and so they take them out to play at the parks and so on. It's just not about being father. Is about being that.
International Men's Day 2025, celebrating men who make a difference. Show up, be there, be loved, be there.
All right, nice. Welcome back to Power in Partnership, where we're about to dive into some stuff a little bit deeper, so that our audience that's watching, that's tuning in, could just understand some stuff. So I want to take it over to our doctor, our neuroscientist, as she explains to us a little bit of the triangular theories of love. How we get all gooey and mushy. How as individuals, as adults, the chemicals in our brain do the things that we do and allow us to react and respond the way that we do. So Doc, take it from here.
Okay, sure. So what is love? I think all of us kind of have an idea of what it is, but what psychologists of old have done is they've assessed and observed couples and tried to come up with these theories of how can we look at love. One of them is the attachment theory that I hope we'll get into, but the first one I really want to get into is called the triangular theory of love. And so the 3 different points of the triangle are intimacy, which is that warmth, connectedness that you feel with the other person. There's passion, which is that drive, that motivation to be with that person. That's related to, your sexual passion for them as well as your physical attraction. And then there's a decision commitment component. And this is your investment in the relationship and your decision to stay as well as just make this relationship work. And so the strength of love in the relationship depends on the strength of each of these components. So how strong is your intimacy? How strong is your passion? How strong is your commitment? And then the kind of relationship you have is dependent on the strengths in relationship to each other. And so a lot of us kind of aim for consummate love, where all of those three things are about the same or very high. But then you can have other types of love, like romantic love, where you only have intimacy and passion, but not necessarily the decision commitment component, as well as there's infatuated love, where you only have passion, but you don't have the intimacy, and you don't have the decision commitment. And so you can have different types of love depending on the levels of which each of these are present. So that's the triangular theory of love. And so I'm really curious within our panel, as I'm sure you are, how this shows up in relationships.
Right. So yeah, I'm curious too. In your relationship for the grants, how does what doctor said, plays out in your relationship? Because I'm sure not every day you're all happy and ooh, I love you today. You wake up one morning like, you see you. How does that plays out in your relationship and your marriage as a couple?
Well, for one, different stages of our life. When we were without children, life was different. We had this romantic, passionate, loving up thing. But from the time the first child came, things changed. Not so much, I guess more time was into the children and not so much with each other. Yeah, the focus was off the wife. Now it's children. And then another child came, and another child came. And now we're at kind of older age where we're just relaxing, no passion. We're not into it like that anymore. No, I mean, no, not like when we were 19. We're not like when we were 19. It's different. It is not like when you're 19 and you just want to love up all day. That's not how we want to go home and lie down and just lie down in the bed and do nothing but lie down in the bed. So we're at that stage right now, not so much that. And plus, you can't even relax because children come in the way as well. So, wow, it is difficult to maintain the tree.
Kenny, as a father, and I like what Kareem said a while ago. Our men as fathers, because Kareem is also a father, but our men as fathers, we are stigmatized a lot, and stigmatized to the point where it's like our fathers don't show the love that they should to their children. In everything that Doc would have just pretty much explained to us as to how the brains work and how we really show love. As a father and even as a men's rights activist, what are some of the things that from your perspective you believe is demonstrated and should be demonstrated where those components are concerned?
Well, as a before you have kids, growing up, you have certain things that are instilled in you, and after having kids now, you want to instill the positive aspects into your kids. I just feel like as a dad, and it's a lot of pressure, especially when you have kids and you expect to nurture your kids and that kind of stuff. But it could be challenging, as Miss Grant would have said as well. I think one that helps with raising kids is that maybe the maturity help us as well, more be able to relate to the kids. Sometimes the dad is the one who's seen as the fun one, so sometimes they can gravitate, and kids depend on their parents for different things. What they depend on me for might be different to what they depend, and I realize it as life goes along and different stages in life as well. So you just have to really pay a lot of attention to what the needs are for your children and be able to deliver in a way that they could relate.
Right, so let me ask you this. In terms of understanding the patterns of that triangle of that Doc spoke about earlier, did your father influence you to be the father you are today in any way?
Yeah, I also had a lot of influence within the community, because growing up I had a lot of, my dad wasn't really there the early stages of my life, so I had like uncles and cousins and so on instilling that in me as well. But then after, my father was a big part of my life. Like when I got into high school, I would move living with my father, and he really tried to mold me how he could, because he never really raised kids like that, So, but he tried. I would say he tried and instilled some, and sometimes having conversations would be difficult, especially after you're getting into high school, starting to mature, having that talk. Even us having that talk with the kids, sometimes it could be difficult, but you just have to know how to navigate through all of this.
Right. Dion, really, go ahead. Sure, go ahead.
As a male growing up, I felt like, I don't know, my father was like, if you're afraid to, touch me or hug me or something. When I went to the US, and guess what, that was my mentality as well. I thought, okay, it'll be tough and whatever.
Yeah,
I went to the US and I saw some big strapping males, so embrace you, and I'm like, wow, this is how it's supposed to be. And it really changed my perspective, and now I'm here, and even as a teacher, or males, they don't get the embrace that they should. I don't know if it's something that we're taught or we learn, but we're afraid to embrace our sons.
Afraid to show emotions.
I'm sure I never heard I love you. But I made it a practice to do it for my children. For sure, they could count on me, come and lean on me. Usually you could lean on your mother. You see children, mother go in the bedroom, the children go in the bedroom. Your mother go everywhere. So I said, no man, that's weird. So as a man, I decided to embrace them and show them the kind of love that they should get.
And I'm happy that you went there, because I was about to really ask a question. Our young girls are, of course, and they should be treated, softly, and we should treat them the way that they should be treated, so that they know from a man's perspective how they should be treated as they get older. But our males are treated to don't cry, hush him out, and then again too, we don't get that I love you kind of thing. So Dion, what are some of the things that as a gender officer are we doing, or the things that you are advocating for just men, fathers to do, again, to bring some of the components from what Doc started with? Because again, the love is, again, to even hug, to even give them a hug is like, oh, you hugging me for, and even now I'm seeing some little girls that their dads are hugging them, they're like, Daddy, don't hug me like that. What are some of the things that's been done in your field as a gender-based officer in being able to advocate for that and allow men, fathers, to do more of that?
Okay, thank you. This is a very loaded question, right? Well, I'll try to be as brief as possible with my in my explanation, right? But let me address the question that you asked. One of the things that we all should be doing is every male in our life is to show them love. That physical touch is really important. I think they said we need about, for a healthy relationship, we need about 3 or 5 hugs a day. 8 hugs a day. Wow. Right? 8 hugs a day. We need that physical touch as human beings. Right? Thank you for reminding me. So we need that, and we. I think that's what all of us can be doing, to do help with this father-son healthy relationship, partnerships in general, relationships in general, right? So the persons in your life, you can do that 8 hugs a day. I didn't have a father hugging me growing up as well, and I think that that kind of influence us how we see relationships as well with our male counterparts, right? When we grow up, I don't even hug my brothers like that, because I didn't receive that, from my father, and and it just feels weird, like hugging another man, and I think that is social expectations on us as well, right? So one of the things that we are trying to do is to change people's perspective, attitudes around what love means for men, right? I'll leave it there. I'll stop.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
So one thing that I wanted to add is one of the trends I picked up in our conversation is how relationships moved from being passion strong in the early phase, and then kind of took on more of once the decision and commitment came in, it took on some of the intimacy components. And so this is really important for us to see how relationships, they can change over time, and it is good for them to change over time because responsibilities also change. And the other thing is intimacy is not just physical touch, right? Intimacy is that vulnerability. How was your day? Tell me truly. How are you feeling right now? So that level of opening up to the other person and allowing them to see a side of you that many other people can't see, And so that's just something else I wanted to add.
No, that's good. No, that is really good. So trust me, Power in Partnership podcast is getting even hotter, to be honest. And I think by the end of this podcast, all of us will be hugging each person about 8 times before. So we're about to take another break again, and we will be right back with you with Power in Partnership podcast.
The Absence, our empty chair awareness campaign, serves as a powerful visual reminder of the lives lost and futures stolen due to gender-based violence. Each empty chair represents a woman, a man, a boy or girl who is no longer here to take his or her place at the table, whether in the classroom, at work, or in their home. Let us be intentional as we support the victims of gender-based violence and put an end to the absence left by empty chairs.
Welcome back to Power in Partnership. We are having a really good time. Our audience, they are enjoying themselves. And in the breaks, we are just having a ball, hugging each other like we're crazy inside here. But some things just keep popping up and allowing the conversations to flow as it is. And we're still realizing that we realize that we are still having an issue that could have been created from the past, way back, where we were still not connecting and being as affectionate as we should. And again, Doc, you mentioned some things about the trends. I'm just trying to remember the word, and I'm gonna put you back on the spot where that is concerned. But Dion, work with me a little bit. How do we now facilitate and be able to get our men, and not just men, but everyone in general, but I know the focus is on men a bit, for us to understand how important it is to really nurture that sort of love and connection and empowerment, and to be collaborative and to even communicate effectively. What are we doing to facilitate that within our community from your space of work and environment?
Thank you. I think it starts with spaces like these where we can have these sort of conversations, and we're somewhat live, so we're able to reach some persons that can hear the voices and hear how we as men feel as well, and how we should feel, how we should operate. We take it back to power, right? Men, we can influence each other, right? And I think we should influence each other in these sort of things, in terms of affection, in terms of really communicating with each other, not just with our words, but with our affection, with our commitment, and with commitment comes consistency. We need to be consistent in the way that we talk to each other, how we show affection to each other. And in our own spaces, that is, in our homes, in our communities, we need to do that. That's the only way that I see that we can start changing mindsets and attitudes. I can give you a story that I was in as Mr. Grant said, I was in the States one time, and I was attending this workshop, and then I saw this guy came up to me, grabbed my hand, and kissed me on the side of my cheek. Right? I start to look at the person weird. Right? And So what is going on here? I've never experienced anything like this. Then I see him move on to the next person and start to kiss them. I said, oh, that's how it go now. So I went to try it, but it felt weird. And then I got to understand that's their culture, right?
Yeah. Culture have a lot to do with it.
Yeah.
And also, another thing that I think is a touchy topic. We have a homophobic stigma that we grow up with. You know, we're not supposed to. If we go hug a woman like this, but if you're healing, you got to daps up and you can't hug a man like that. Simple things like that embedded in your mind, and you grow up with this thing, and you feel like that's how it's supposed to be. And then you go to a different country with a different culture, and you realize men embracing themselves, even kissing. So it all boils down to a culture and something that we got to break for a better cause.
Doc, what do you think causes, and I hope there's any sort of scientific back into this, what do you think that caused some of our, what I may call maybe that phase of distance between, that parent as a father or even a mother to that child, to think that, okay, no, I don't really want this hug anymore, or I'm too old for this kind of thing.
Influence, friends, I can't hug me. Well, when my son get bigger, I can't hug him in public because he friends them go, oh, you're a little, So, a lot of times it's peer pressure, things that you see growing up and so on. So, many things, but I think mostly friends, peer pressure, who might feel like, oh, you're soft because your father hugging you still, and that kind of stuff.
That's interesting. I have a son in high school that I teach at, and his friends almost every day, Mr. Grant, his son want a hug. So what I do sometimes, I just say, come boy, they will still come the next day. I don't know if they want to hug themselves, but they keep saying, Mr. Grant, your son want a hug, and I intentionally do it to embarrass him a little bit, but but he doesn't mind because he's accustomed to it, so he's not really freaked out.
Right. So Doc, is there anything, just to you, is there anything that really...
Yeah, so this makes me think of the attachment theory, but yeah, culture really does play a huge role in it. So when it's what we see is what creates those firing and wiring pathways. So how our brain thinks that we should deal with things based on observation and also experience. And so attachment theory tells us that the way we bond to our significant others and the way we deal with stress in these relationships are really influenced by the way we bonded to our early caregivers, so our parents. And so this speaks a lot to what we've been hearing here. I couldn't hug my parents, and it feels a little bit awkward for me to hug someone else. And so our caregivers and the way we give care right now will influence the way our children, when they get older, give care and attach. And so attachment theory basically speaks to if your needs, your emotional, physical, nutritional, all of your needs were met consistently as a child, you're likely to be securely attached. So have these attachments where you do seek out your needs being met and you want to meet the needs of other people.
Right.
And then if it's inconsistent, or you're not, if you're maybe only your physical needs or your food, shelter are being met, but not the emotional, you can have insecure attachment. And that's you being anxious, you really wanting to cling to someone, or being avoidant, you don't really feel that you're more self-reliant, you don't feel the need to attach. Or disorganized, where you go between the two. Sometimes you want to cling and sometimes it's just too much, and then you go back and forth between these things. And so a lot of this is really influenced by the way we were brought up and the way our needs, whether they're emotional or physical, were met.
So you see, and like how you're saying, this attachment theory thing, because now I have to turn to the Grant as a married couple, and I was speaking to after Kenny too. I mean, most of us are married on the panel, but it then speaks of what then allows us to get to that place where we are so now detached and distant. I mean, we go to what you brought up earlier, from Gary Chapman, the 5 love languages, affirmation and physical touch, and as a couple, how how have you been able to communicate that entire dynamic? Because again, I don't wake up every morning and say, baby, I love you today. You know? I did something last night, and it wasn't good. We didn't like it, but we had to find a way to work it out. So in just that sort of again, that attachment, and even culturally, you can even mix it up as well. How are you able to communicate those things, those languages between each other, and do it effectively and keep it going?
My best advice for anybody who is together trying to get deciding to get married is counseling. You have to get some kind of counseling, because I believe 99% of the people here in this country grew up in a toxic household. Not saying that toxic with abuse or whatnot. We just don't know how to show affection. Our brains were not made properly growing up as a child, because as the generation before us, they knew nothing about giving hugs. They knew nothing about, well, not new. It was just culture for us to just feed the kid, bathe the kid, send them to school, and make sure that they don't die. That's how I felt, right? So when you have that kind of idea as to what it is to show love, and you have that example, and then you find somebody else who have a similar example, and then you come together to express love. What are you going to express, right? Maybe something from the movie, I have no idea. But you have to understand the other person. You have to, and personality play a lot in it. He has a different personality than me. When it comes to conflict, I want to get it over right now. You said this, you said, and he want to go and just cool and chill, and then come back later, and I want to deal with it now. So you have to really learn each other, and you really have to have a lot of grace when it comes to conflict resolution and all of that. But when you're in a relationship, it's just listening to what the other person says. And I always tell him, you don't have to understand that if the pencil, I'm upset that the pencil is there. You don't have to understand that. You just understand that you're upset because this is here. And if it doesn't make sense to you, certain things he says doesn't make sense to me, but he said he upset about it the same way. You really have to listen and understand and allow them to feel the way they feel without being upset.
Is it jump in there, or you? I see you. Are you going to leave it, or are you going to jump in? Tell me.
Jump in.
I can jump in a little.
Okay.
Yes. So, yes, when things are not perfect and you're angry, for me, man, sometimes I'm so mad with this young lady here, right? and I say, you know what? I ain't gonna talk to her. But if I try that, I ain't gonna sleep on her. And she enjoyed, and she just, I did twisting and turning and said, Lord, and look, I do so. I'm sorry. Yeah. So I don't know how. I guess I love her for sure. I don't know. But that's how I deal with it. I can't prolong it for too long. I can't be angry for too long and have a good time. I don't know. So that.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Doc, is there a component in our brains or something chemical in our brains that allows us to deal with conflict resolution the way we should, or it has to be learned? Is it natural for us to just learn conflict management, conflict resolution, or this thing has to be learned?
So it's all dependent on what you've observed and experienced, growing up. And so naturally we have aggression. It's a natural thing. So that's a way that we, as just instinctual beings, can deal with conflict. But then the other component here is the hierarchy of needs, where if your needs are not met, it's very difficult. If your physical needs, the very essential ones, shelter, water, food, are not met, it is difficult to move on to the emotional needs. And so both of these will play a part in how we do resolve conflict. And so if your needs are not met and you're and your brain is just focused on getting those met, you're not gonna think about resolving conflict in these softer, gentler ways. You're just gonna think, how am I going to deal with you crying if I don't have water, in the morning? And so, yeah, it depends on the examples that we have, and it also depends on our state, right. how we're surviving at the present moment. And so, yeah, it can be learned if we are fortunate enough, because I think of it as it's a privilege to be able to have our emotional needs met and to be at a place now in society where we don't have to worry about whether we're going to eat and so on. And so, it's the privilege to be in that space, and then even to be able to have this conversation, to think, are we resolving conflict well? That's great. That's really, really good.
Great. I'm so happy that you said that. So with that being said, I hope you're able to jump into something else when we get back after the break. But as again, domestic violence, gender-based violence, it is really, really serious. And for me, I don't think we're still finding a space as to how we really deal with the conflict that takes place in these environments. But at the same time, too, you lovely people, we're going to be back to Power in Partnership in a minute.
This International Men's Day, we celebrate fathers and father figures who choose to show up, not just in presence, but in love, time, and care.
Verna, I really admire when fathers show up for their children, physically and emotionally. I really begin right from the start, right from birth.
And I have to agree with you right there. I think when fathers are a part of the process from the very inception, it creates a long-lasting bond. Whether when you're changing the diapers, when you're cuddling, you're comforting, when you're even helping mom, it's really a good thing to see. It's good to watch.
I feel you. It's about being present. Really, really being present at their events, at their activities, and to cheer them on as well and congratulate them when they do well.
The children have homework, they have projects, even just a quick check-in, hey, how was your day? I think a little bit of encouragement from fathers could really boost a child's confidence, and they feel better about themselves daily.
It's a good look, right? I see them jumping out the vehicle and they're taking them into preschool or primary school or even high school, right? And they're walking together holding hands, and so that they take them out to play at the parks and so on. It's just not about being father, it's about being dad.
International Men's Day 2025, celebrating men who make a difference. Show up, be there, be loved, be dad.
And we are back to Power in Partnership, and again, the conversation, it has been wonderful. It's about to get it a little bit even, a bit more, better. So with that, we ended on a note of conflict management, conflict resolution, and knowing that it surrounds the whole issue of domestic violence, gender-based violence, and the things that happens in relationship that leads to such toxicity and how toxic a relationship can be within that environment. Doc started off with me. There is aggression in so many different areas of conflict resolution and what happens within a relationship that allows, and this goes both ways, not just from male to female. Sometimes it's male to male, female to female, that are in relationships. The things that happen, this aggression, where in our chemical membrane is this thing coming from?
Yeah. Great question. So aggression is normal. Aggression can be good, right? We need aggression for survival. This is how we protect our family. But the issue comes when aggression is not balanced properly and not regulated well. And so there are a few hormones that do encourage aggression. So this is cortisol, adrenaline for sure. When you're stressed, your stress response puts you in fight or flight. And so that is important for getting you out of stress. Sometimes we perceive things that are not stressful and not negative or dangerous as dangerous, and so that drives us into that mode more. And aggression is not violence. Aggression is, the way you deal with a matter, and not necessarily, does not have to be physically violent, but it is just that jolt that overrides that gentle process of doing things. Other ones are vasopressin. So I mentioned vasopressin earlier up in the conversation, and that's that hormone that's important for protection as well. And then we have testosterone is another one that's important for aggression, and both men and women do have these hormones. We have a balance of cortisol and adrenaline, and men would have higher levels of vasopressin and testosterone. And so in addition to this, environmental factors, experience, observation, that plays into aggression, as well as sometimes aggression can be rewarding. So we get rewarded by perhaps throwing a plate on the ground, and that feels good because it's a quick release. But then if that continues and we wire this into this addiction framework, then we become addicted to aggression and a type of violence as well. And so this is what can lead to abuse. And then the last thing I'll add to that is the same brain pathways that are important for threat detection. This is dangerous, is what's also important for aggression and leading us into how we will then respond to a conflict.
Whew. Yeah, my brain cells all over the place now.
Okay.
You know, so Kenny, so with that happening, how could we as men be allies to prevent domestic violence against women, men, children? You know, how can we partner? How can we be better men within our community to make sure that this aggression that is, and the doc says so, not me. Mm-hmm. She says it's normal. That it doesn't continue.
Well, we now have to look at how it affects the people around us, especially your children, and you have to make a decision. Well, because a lot of the times we don't want our kids to see us arguing or anything, and they don't think that we argue, So I think that's one of the first things you have to think about in your approach to certain things. As Miss Grant would have alluded to, counseling. Counseling is something that, again, culturally, we feel like counseling, only if something wrong with you, you should do counseling. So that should be encouraged as well. Just being role models in society, try and be the best as you can be, and hope that somebody tries to fashion your life as well, and encourage collaboration. Encourage your partner to speak her mind, even though sometimes you might take it the wrong way sometimes. But communication is good, collaboration is good, as well as counseling. Mm-hmm. Both of you go to regular counseling, and that would help as well.
Dion, outside of this, what is it from, again, as an officer, are we doing? And again, the podcast is great, but having men on the ground, just like yourself, what are we doing to really reach out to the men? The guys on the block, they have a girlfriend or two, and again, it's pretty much knowing that I'm in the field as well. Our ladies are silent, and I'm saying extremely silent, knowing that they are being abused, whether verbally or physically, in their relationships, and they're not saying anything. What are we doing as, again, an officer in your field? What are we doing outside of the podcast, on the ground, to make sure that, one, our men stop doing what they're doing, they're not afraid to go to counseling, and at the same time, two, our women could be as bold enough to say, hey, I need some help. What are we doing?
I think I'm getting the heavy questions. But what are we doing? You said the podcast. We also are having men's sessions, safe spaces for men that they can come and share their emotions, what they are going through, and so, because sometimes men can't explain these things to women. They just don't understand, and we have to be honest with ourselves. And sometimes we just like the women have their thing, they go and talk. Go on the phone, something happened, and they'll go on the phone and call each other and talk about everything for a very long time, and people outside know all your business, what happened in the house. Right? We need our spaces as well, and we have been trying to get these spaces. Last year we started these spaces for you were there symposium, and Nevis continued with these spaces. Just as recently they had a men and boys conference. So it's just having these spaces where men can talk and influence each other, because influence is power, and have power or like something that Kenny said very quickly. I think that a lot of us don't have, like, when we were growing up, didn't have positive role models in our lives to show us what a healthy relationship look like between a mother and a father. Sometimes our father wasn't in the home, he was absent, so we don't know what that looks like. And sometimes when we see abuses happen, as made, we tend to think that's normal, that's how a man should show his strength and show his power. So it's really what influenced us as growing up, and what our culture allow and accepted as time go on. And these things influence us, right? And without even we knowing that, we influence. It's only when we act out in a certain way we may realize that this is wrong, but for some reason we can't stop it. For some reason our reflexes go to abuses. Back to you, right? I think when we talk about women getting abused, yes, women to a higher degree, women is getting abused, but for the past few years we have been seeing, like, in terms of reported cases, men are being abused as well, and they're starting to report it at a higher degree, right? So it says that we need to teach, maybe in school, what a healthy relationship looks like for both male and female, and that I will leave it there.
And that's fine. I turn to the grants a bit. In just being able to manage conflict, how is the aggression within managing that conflict handled? And two, Doc, I don't know if you can touch on this a bit too as well. Can aggression be tamed?
You want me to go first?
Anybody can go first.
Absolutely. And I say that one with my chest. Aggression can definitely be tamed. And so I just want to clarify, aggression is not abuse, right? Aggression is just, that overriding of your natural docile instinct to deal with a problem. So you saying, I'm going to push this truck as far as I need to push it to get it off of my husband, that's aggression. But can these negative, disadvantageous pathways be rewired? Absolutely. Through experience, through counseling, just exposure, we can rewire new pathways in our brain of how to deal with a conflict. Because what may happen is you think, okay, because you experienced, whenever you experienced anger or you saw someone angry, they then went on to use a smaller one, swear. When they're angry, and so now there's some kind of verbal abuse that's happening, and everyone is now the worst person in the world, and they're the enemy of the state, because that's how they dealt with it when they were angry. If you can see, I can be angry, but then say to myself, you know what, I'm angry, and that's okay. I just need some time to calm down, and then I need to address this problem once I'm calm. That's a whole.
Is that real?
That's so real. That's a whole new pathway, because you realize when I'm angry, if I'm around people, it doesn't go well for me or them. So what I need to do is, when I realize I'm really angry, and everyone will have their different steps. I need to take a step back. I need to go to the bathroom. I don't need to use it, but I just need to go in there, look at myself in the mirror and say, you're angry. You don't need to be this angry right now. What can I do to calm down? And these are things you can uncover in therapy. You can figure out what are some ways that I can deal with my anger. It can happen when you're sad as well. When people are sad, you can also connect that to violence. When I saw my mom sad, every time she was sad, she would, punch the wall or do something, slam something. And so then I think, oh, that's the way I should deal with sadness. And so this is something that could absolutely be rewired. We just need to see different pathways, or we need to think of what can I do? Because a lot of times this aggression is just a way to quickly get that release. Because like I said earlier, you drop a plate on the ground, or you swear. It really does. There's a study that shows that when you do swear, dopamine is released, and so it is that release. So it's a quick, yeah. So it's a. So it's like these. It's a quick release that allows you to feel good. But it's only short term, because then the issue is still there. So you need these new mechanisms, these new ways to figure out, okay, how am I going to tackle this problem so that it does not, get me this worked up, or I can actually deal with the problem so it doesn't come back. And so that's where boundaries could come in, which I'm sure you're familiar with as a family therapist, where you just need to set some boundaries. Okay, when you do this, it upsets me. Do not move the bottle. Please don't move the bottle. It really upsets me. Can you do that? If you can't do that, okay, if you don't move the bottle, I will do this. Not you will do this. I won't punish you, but I will come up with another way to deal with this issue. So absolutely. I'm so glad you asked. We can rewire these instincts and these ways that we deal with conflict in negative ways.
Right. Sorry, you respond to some of this now? Yes.
I respond to aggression?
Yeah, in terms of how you deal with it
conflict
within your marriage, your relationship.
Yeah. So
family.
As I was saying before, everybody's different and everybody's personalities are different. And when it comes to conflict resolution, for me personally, I want to deal with the conflict head on. I want to talk about. I only feel better when I talk about it. He feels better when he don't talk about it and he goes somewhere and he's gonna bury it somewhere and he's gonna go over there. So as he goes over there to mull it over, I'm over here getting more upset. So it is literally night and day. And the question was asked, how did we deal with it? How did we deal with it? And I've recognized that I would have to talk in a way that is calm and be like, okay, I didn't like when you do this, XYZ or whatever. Eventually, if the issue is with him, if he has the issue, he will eventually come. So if the issue, I will give him his space if he has an issue, because I know that's how he deals with it. So I will give him his space. But if I have the issue and I am upset and I need to talk about it, I think he knows by now that I need to talk about it, but I personally would have to work on the way in which I deliver, because he gets triggered when I get high. And honestly, we talk a lot about men. Men don't understand that they are actually the stability in the relationship, because if I go high, because women are natural. We have hormones, all kinds. 1 week we good, 1 week we ain't good. The period come, it gone, it's all over the place, right? Men have a steady stream of testosterone. They're there, y'all not moving. There's no cycle, there's no waves, there's nothing. Slight ones, but there's not much, right? There's not much, y'all, testosterone. So when the women, if a man follows the woman in her, not to say that we are giving ourselves excuse, but if I'm there and he's riding the waves with me going up, that's ridiculous, right? When it comes to being a man, of course, that you don't understand that if you stay firm, not to say that you get beat up on or anything, but if you stay firm, you actually bring down the lady, bring down your spouse. And I don't think that men understand the power that they have in conflict resolution, because it is up, I don't want to say it like that, but it's up to the man to decide where it's going to go. Once somebody is already hot, once the woman is already hot, it's really up to the man to decide. If he gets hot, it done there.
So,
Right? Gone bad.
So,
It gone
so-
bad.
all right. So let me put this would be for me a one size fit all. So anybody on the panel could answer this now. So how do we become intentional in creating safe spaces? All right, for all that we are discussing in terms of the power, the collaboration, the empowerment of partnership. How do we now create safe spaces intentionally? As a father, as an activist, as a couple, a married couple, married for years, with a family, as a doctor. How do we now create a safe space as a gender officer? How do we now create a safety net? So that persons who are listening, who will watch this after, that they could use and that they can apply to their very own lives.
Can I go first?
Yeah, anybody can jump. Yeah.
So I think it starts with you. So you have to consider emotional hygiene. You have to take responsibility for your emotions. I am angry. I don't have to be. I am depressed. I don't have to be. I can take responsibility for how I'm feeling, and I don't need to give that as a gift to anyone else. I can take care of it on my own, or try to figure out how to take care of that. And when I say take care of it on my own, I mean take responsibility. It doesn't mean that you're going out in isolation and having a conversation with yourself. It means that you can go to a friend, even your significant other, and say, hey, I'm dealing with this. It's not your fault, but this is just how I am processing it at this moment. So I think there's a level of emotional responsibility we need to begin taking within the society. Yes, what someone may have done upset you, but your reaction is entirely in your control. So that's just the one piece that I'd like to add for now.
Anybody jump in?
Yeah. Looking at the bigger picture.
Yes.
You want to move forward, and a lot of the times these conflicts just left you in a spot and you can't get to move forward. So many times you look at the greater picture. We have kids, we have things to do. We don't need to have this problem slowing us up. So I think that in itself would encourage conflict resolution and so on. But you just have to see what your mechanism is to help get over this hurdle, and then you apply it accordingly.
Listen.
My motto is, home is supposed to be the safest place. So I try my best to be intentional with making it that way. Because sometimes you go to work and it's awful, you go to school and it's awful. So when you reach home, that's supposed to be the place where you say, I'm here, and you're supposed to feel relieved from any problems. One thing to mention though, this might not come over good, but sometimes when I realize she's acting a kind of way, I check her period act. I check her period, and without fail, almost always she's around that time. So I just relax and say, okay, I understand. I give her a pat on the back. So you have to learn your partner. She doesn't mean to be that way, but the period got her going. So that's how I maneuver. That's how I maneuver around that.
That's the only time you got conflict?
Yeah.
Dion?
I love the conversation. Doc, I agree with you. How we react is up to us. We have to take control of our own emotions. We're not responsible for anyone else, how anyone else react, but ourselves, right? Mrs. Grant, I kind of in between of what you said in terms of when you're up 100, it's up to the man too. I'm in between that because, like the doc said, you have to take control of yourself. Of course, as partners, if your partner should know you.
No, and so yes, too. If I guess what I'm saying as well is that don't meet fire with fire. Like if somebody is expressing their anger in a negative way, in a way that it shouldn't be, if he's coming at me and it makes no sense for me to meet him where he's at. I'm just saying that generally, most of the time, it's the women that will be acting that way, apparently, during your period. But what I'm saying is, don't meet aggression, because he can be aggressive too, but his aggression he's passive aggressive.
Yes.
And I'm like, not because your anger looks different than mine means that it's not anger. And that it doesn't come off as anger, and it doesn't hurt as anger, right? Not because you're passive aggressive. But I agree what you say, that you still have to take responsibility. You have no call to be making noise in the place. No call to be making noise in the place. All I'm saying is the second person should join in the noise.
and that is why I said that in between, because I believe that somebody have to be the adult, right? Right?
You can get the stone from the audience.
Right, but I think that oftentimes it's a natural reaction. When someone is aggressive, you match the energy.
Yes, but as a man, you try hold it.
Oh yeah, we try, but we are human too.
You said that, but I find sometimes if that happen outside the home, we tend to be more relaxed. But when it happen home, we quick to jump on.
Because that's our closest relationship. Have you ever wondered why certain things bother us with persons close to us? But if somebody else say that's a stranger, it doesn't bother us as much.
You know how that is interpreted? That's interpreted that I get the worst. You have the most patient. Somebody out there cussing you from head to toe, and you're like, you know what? Go ahead. And then I say something, and it's like, huh? I'm like, but you can't treat others outside better, because that's how it comes off. And he's like, no, I have a high standard for you. And I'm like, no, it just looks like you're just ready for me every time, and everybody else out there get grace. There's grace for everyone.
But I also heard you say you're always ready.
I tried that too.
Okay,
I am much better, right? It's much better because it's growth. We've been together since we were teenagers. So you learn certain things and you understand that this doesn't work. I can't do this. I shouldn't do that. The same thing with him. He can't just be silent for a day and expect that something to change. I can't be nagging the dude. I tell you this. I tell you that it's not gonna work, because So when it comes to conflict resolution and working together and partnership, you really have to. Honestly, the biggest thing is just to listen. Listen, hear, listen, and act too. Because I read something that apparently I wrote, because it was in my writing. I saw it. I guess I wrote it, but I didn't remember. It says, basically, to show somebody that you love them is to kindly do what they ask. And that is it. To kindly do what they ask. Even if he always says something, do what the boss say, even if it's stupidness, right? Even if you don't understand what they are asking, to show somebody you love them, just kindly do what they ask. And that is collaboration, right? And you can't get any better than the Bible, 1 Corinthians 13 said, love suffers long, and that means love is long-tempered. Because when you look at the original Greek, it means long-tempered. So when you look, love is long-tempered. And I'm like, well, I'm short-tempered, so I have to learn to love. I have to learn to be long-tempered. Love is kind. Kind means furnish what is needed. If the person, sometimes I'm there and he recognized, oh ma'am, she probably need a hug, and he would come in. I was like, okay, that actually fixed it, You furnish what is needed. If the person needs affection, if the person need a hug, if the person need, whatever. And if you can go through the list, and when you study that, it says and also it's like it doesn't take inventory of wrong. That's think no evil. When you look at it, you take no inventory of wrong, and you don't just hold on to. So that is what love is. And when you collaborate, and when you really study this, you realize that a lot of weight is still on you. the weight is on the other partner, but the weight is also on you for you to show love, for you to be a good partner, for you to show that you're willing to work it out and work through it.
Could I ask a question?
We want to ask all the questions right after, so let's just give it a little. Hold the question. Don't share it. Hold it. All right. And we want to also invite our audience to also just get ready to ask us whatever questions you have, and hope we can answer it, or you never know. So we'll be right back to Power in Partnership in a minute.
The Absence, our empty chair awareness campaign, serves as a powerful visual reminder of the lives lost and futures stolen due to gender-based violence. Each empty chair represents a woman, a man, a boy or girl who is no longer here to take his or her place at the table, whether in the classroom, at work, or in their home. Let us be intentional as we support the victims of gender-based violence and put an end to the absence left by empty chairs.
Welcome back again to Power in Partnership podcast, and we are winding down slowly, and we are going to give you, the audience, those that are online, the opportunity to ask our lovely guest panel some questions, and we want to do that right now. So who do we have first?
Hi. So my question is, I've observed that relationships usually end when children is involved, as the grants were speaking about. However, they are still together, but I've observed that my age group or older, relationship end, but how to prevent relationships from ending after having children, because I've seen a trend of relationships ending after.
You have to make intentional time for the person. I always tell him, and this is, you did not marry your children. Mm-hmm. You married that person because you like that person. You wanted to be with that person. You chose that person. You got your children, yes, and your focus will change because the adjustment is very difficult at times to adjust to a new human being in your relationship. That's really how it, when you look at it, that's what it is. A new human being just came in the middle of your relationship, and it will cause a separation. But because most relationships, at the 6-month mark, when the baby is 6 months, you really see them kind of split. Like, you know, but you have to make intentional time. The child cannot, when they're just born, they have to be the main focus because you have to keep them alive. But little by little, your partner always have to be your main focus. Your partner always have to be your, lack of a better word, priority. Because if you don't maintain the relationship, if they're not your priority, the child will see a broken relationship and they'll grow up in a fractured home, even if you stay together. But if you remain friends and if you remain each other's, from our children know that we're each other's priority. And they're happy for that. This morning we play fighting, and then they one of them over there is like, I wonder who's going to win, you know? Instead he coming to help his mother. But anyway, right? So you have to make sure that y'all still have to be right or die. Forget them kids. I mean, not like that, right? Not like that. Not like that. But
and another way not to prevent it from ending, as a man, you need to help as much as possible. Now, when a woman went through all that drama she went through, it is difficult for her. And I see some men just ignore the wife, lie in, and they have a baby home, and it's just too much for one person. Yeah. I don't know how single parents do it. When I watch the kind of things that she had to go through, as a mother, I say I have to be here as much as possible to ease her burden as much as possible. So that will help with the relationship.
Yes, thank you so much for that. We have another question.
So my question is, we've been speaking about power this morning. How can persons truly identify? Because I feel like a lot of persons are not aware about the true depth of narcissism and how that can affect you in so many different ways because it comes with a mask. So how can persons, whether it be male or female, how can they identify what is healthy from toxic, and how can I get myself out of this? Or, because that is a struggle in society. They cannot truly identify those narcissistic traits.
Well, I think sometimes it's not even being able to identify the traits, but just ignoring them at some points. So have to they present themselves to you. You have to decipher pick out the good from the bad, and which should be easy, but sometimes love overtake everything else.
Sometimes it comes with a lot of manipulation. So somebody who doesn't know how to identify, then they too can get caught up in that web of craziness.
Yeah, I was talking to a friend of mine recently, and the person is narcissistic, the other person. But in my mind, if you constantly feel confused in your relationship, if you consistently feel confused and if you consistently feel unsure and unhappy, you are not in a healthy relationship. Most likely, you're dealing with a narcissistic person if you're consistently confused. And I'm like, confusion is Babylon. So get out of Babylon, my friend. Get out, right? Your relationship, you're supposed to be feeling safe. You're supposed to be feeling secure. You're supposed to be able to be your authentic, true self, not walking on eggshells and them kind of things. And if those are the feelings that you're having, even if you love the person, you're in a toxic relationship. You're dealing with a narcissistic person. So address the feelings, recognize the feelings, and then decide what you're going to do. Confusion, that's what you're going to feel.
That's exactly what I was going to say. How does it make you feel? What freedom do you have? What access do you have? But then what makes it really difficult is if you were brought up in a situation that looks the same, because then you don't even know what access am I even supposed to have, how much freedom am I supposed to have. And so there, if you can identify that you were brought up in a more unhealthy environment, then maybe you do need to talk to someone about how you were brought up and what you're going through now, how similar they are. Is this healthy? Who else is experiencing this?
All right, nice. We have another question.
So not a question, but a comment.
A comment, okay.
I just really want to thank God for this opportunity for this to happen, the power for this to happen. All of the individuals on this panel, like this literally feels so aligned with what we need right now. And this has been an incredible experience. I'm just going to talk for the whole audience right now and say that this has really been incredible. And thank you each for all of your contributions. Like, I have been taking copious notes. So I don't have a question because I'm just like, yes, agreed. So I don't have a question because I just think that it's just so fulfilling. So thank you.
This question is mostly towards the doctor. So it's been mentioned a few times about how we come up in environments that are inherently toxic and dysregulate us, right? And as a result, the chemicals in our mind and our brain and stuff. So what are some things that we can do to start the process to being more regulated? Because it said, you have to work on yourself, you have to fix yourself. But what's an idea of some of the things we can do to help self-regulate in a healthy way?
So one place to start could be self-inventory. So taking stock of when these dysregulations happen, what types of things trigger us, so knowing what those things are. and then being able to learn our own patterns. How are we, okay, so now that we know, okay, so this thing triggers me, how do I deal with that particular trigger? And then learning new ways to deal with them. And so this could be talking to other people. Hey, Kenny, what do you do when Nikisha steps on your toe every day? Like, how do you deal with that? Figuring out from other people, what are their ways? Are there other healthy ways other than what I can come up with my brain, because my exposure and experience is so limited? So I think that's one way, and as well as talking to counselors and therapists who can help us figure out, what is this linked to? So I get triggered because someone moves my water bottle. That doesn't seem to trigger other people. Where is this linked back to? Could it be in childhood when the water bottle was moved, it also meant that I would be punished severely? And so what are these things connected to in our childhood? And so it starts with taking stock of where it is, connecting it to what we do, and then connecting it also back to where it started when we were younger.
Okay, good. Do we have another question? Yes.
I have a question.
Doc has a question, yes.
Yeah, I have a question to the men on the panel, and even maybe the men in the audience. So at the top of the conversation, we mentioned whether men felt that they were burdened significantly. And so I was thinking, well, some women, we expect men to deal with our emotions at the highs and lows, but then when men present their emotions to us at the highs and lows, then we kind of become uncomfortable. So my question to the men is that, does this feel fair to you? And does this add to the burden, the way we think of how you have to deal with emotions?
Yeah. Carrie? Kenny?
I think I can start. To be honest, sometimes I don't even understand my own emotion, that what's going on inside of me, because I've never really was taught how to deal with my emotions, right? As a boy growing up, some of us might have had like support systems that taught us that, but my father, like I said, never hugged me and so on, and it's just as an adult I heard my father say I love you for the first time, right? And I never really was taught how to really deal with my emotion, like anger, sadness, depression, even when feeling happy, how to express those emotions in a healthy way. So when a woman put her emotions on me and I have to try to decipher her emotions, it's really hard for me to decipher how she's feeling and really understand how she's feeling if I don't even understand how I feel myself, right? And I think that has been the hardest part, just as a man, trying to, decipher, how I can balance trying to understand my emotion while understanding the other person's emotions. We, as men, we don't share our emotions, not even to each other, we don't share, generally, because I know there are some men who probably, share emotion amongst each other, but generally, how we were raised, we weren't raised to really express. We weren't allowed to cry for every single thing. If we all talk that matched, they'll tell you that's a soft thing, man. What you crying for? Man up. So we really wasn't really taught how to really release those emotions and so on. So sometimes it's really hard for us as men to really, you sometimes I can feel women, they want you to talk about your emotions, right? But that kind of mushy and icky, we don't want to, right, icky, and sit down and ask you how was your day, and they want to know every single thing that happened during that, how you feel about it. And we were like this, are you my therapist? Because they really want to get out of you, and it's a healthy thing, but it feels strange for us because we weren't really raised that way.
For me, it's a work in progress. As you said, it's not something that you learn growing up. So you have to try and cope. You talk to your partner, and then you still now have to teach your son how to express himself. So it's a work in progress. You just have to find ways to see how you could get this emotions displayed in public, because most of the time we keep it to ourselves. We just sweep it on the rug, and that is it right there. So you have to work on yourself if you want a better relationship with your spouse and your kids.
Okay, amazing. Okay, all right, good. Do you have any more questions in our audience? Are we good? All right. Yeah? One more. We have one more question. We take that. All right, sure.
A really short question and a quick comment. Doc, one more question. You mentioned the love triangle theory thing. So by that, is infatuation considered love?
Yeah, so by that theory, it lists, I think it's 8 or 9 different types, and it's just based on how the intimacy, passion, and commitment shows up. So there's infatuous love. There's infatuous love, which is where just passion. There's passion but no intimacy and no commitment. And so it's considered a love based on that theory, but whether you define infatuation as love would be different. And so it's just a theoretical framework that was come up with by a psychologist.
Okay, quick comment. In terms of how we can help, I think mental health and taking stock of your emotions and emotional intelligence should be brought into the curriculum of learning the same way physical is. Like, we are taught about how to eat, we're taught about how to take care of ourselves when we're sick, etc. But you don't get taught that. You just kind of figure it out. And I think that's part of the problem.
Right.
I also think we need proper infrastructure, like centers where people could go to and open up, because it's not a topic that people like to talk about. You don't want to expose to somebody that you're being abused or something like that. So I think that would help. Infrastructure, as well as help from the authority figures, the leaders, the church leaders, and so on, helping you to quell this problem that we have. Because I've been, even on the social media, you've seen women complaining that they go to make a report and the police don't pay much attention to it, and if they feel like there's no answer, and then you have people taking their own life because they feel like they don't have an answer. Just live with it and bear with it until you die. So I think we need proper infrastructure and proper certain things put in place so that we could attack the problem. Because talking it helps, but when it comes to the action side of it, the aggressive side of it is not being attacked as much as we would like it to.
And right there, I would put a plug in from the Department of Gender Affairs. We just started our group for men called Men as Allies. So to the 2 men from Nevis who are on the panel, I am giving you an open invitation to join that group, because we realize that there needs to be a shift that happens within our society. We used to grow up and that your father was present. Even if he wasn't a present father, you go on the street and you do something wrong and he is around, he is going to make himself seen, whether it's in an embarrassing way or just to give you the eye, to give you, just how mommy to give you the eye, just so daddy might give you the eye for you to cool your soap and carry on respectfully and stuff. So we've lost the presence of men in our society, and it now trickles over to how women behave and how children are now behaving. So I'm giving you guys an open invitation. As soon as January starts, we are out the starters block again, and I would hope that those who would listen via social media and the viewing after, if you're interested in joining the Men as Allies group, you can contact us here at the Department of Gender Affairs Nevis. Our number 469-5521, extension 6752, and we would be happy to have you in the fold. Back to you, moderator.
And there you go. And there we have it. So with that, I want to give my lovely guests just a minute just to give some closing statements, closing remarks, and knowing that we had a really awesome morning. So, Dion, you want to take the ball first?
Okay. I'll keep it brief. But I definitely wanted to say, Kenny, Mr. Grant, I really think that we as a society only take like our physical health as serious, because if we took our mental health serious, we would have a better place. We can't even go to the doctor to get days off to say that we have mental exhaustion, right? We can get days off for physical sickness, but when it comes mentally, it doesn't happen. In terms of family and bonding with your child, and Mr. Grant, to you, you did say that sometimes she needs a break and that time is important, and one of the things we are advocating for is paternity leave, for men. We need to create those opportunities and that access for men to do those things. Granted, there might be some men who abuse it, but that shouldn't be an excuse not to have that, give men that opportunity, right? I'll close it off and say my focus of my work is really to help individuals and communities to recognize the difference between influence and control, love and possession, culture and coercion. When we can identify these distinctions, we can empower people not to only build stronger relationships, but also to step in earlier when something doesn't feel right. And so I'm grateful to the chance to discuss these things, and I think we do need a part 2 with this exact panel. I really feel the vibes and so on. And I also think that the doctor needs her own show as well. Right, but I thank you for having me. I thank you to the audience. I appreciate every one of you at the table. Take care.
Thank you, Dion, and maybe the doctor might have her own show. Doc, want to wrap us up?
Yes, thank you very much to the panel for having me, for the Department of Gender Affairs as well, both on St. Kitts and Nevis. This has been a really excellent discussion, and I'm glad to have been a part of it. My closing statement is our brains are wired for social interactions, relationship, love in a healthy way. We already have the machinery for that. Now we just need the emotional hygiene. We need the new or alternative experiences to deal with trauma, stress, and the different things that could come our way. And I don't have my own show, but I do have an Instagram page related to my nonprofit. It's at Mitis, MITIS.ASCENSIO, Ascensio. So at Mitis.Ascensio. And this month, I've been talking about love. I talk about the triangular theory of love, and so I'm trying to get this information out there and, have language that's related to love and healthy relationships. So thank you for the segue for that. And I hope you will, follow on Instagram as well.
Kenny?
To be honest, initially I didn't even know what the conversation would have been. I had no idea. When I sent me the thing yesterday, but I didn't even really pay much attention to it. But it's been a fruitful conversation. And I think anybody who listens to the conversation would be encouraged to do better. And that's all you have to do. Be the best version of yourself, and you're going to be remembered for a long time, long after your pass. I would encourage the department to, keep more forums like this. It's a very interesting conversation, and I think a lot of people would be encouraged to do better once they see that there's models out there to follow.
Grant?
Yes, I just want to say thank you for having us, and Julian is going to give the closing statement because she's the talker.
I turned the mic to the man. I just want to say thanks for the opportunity, and it's always important to show not only the good lovey-dovey side of a marriage, but to know that it's real, and to know that there will be conflict, but there's always resolution if you work on it, and work on yourself and work on the other person as well, work with, as Kareem said, work with the other person, and to, as I said in the beginning, the power in your relationship comes from the both of you to drive the relationship forward.
Lovely. Good stuff. We have definitely done our best today, and I think this was an awesome podcast. And as your host, I'm grateful for being your host today. You know, kind of last minute, I had to ask Deanna several times, you sure you really want me to do this thing? But anyways, it was a privilege. I really want to thank our panelists. We want to thank the audience, you know, for asking their questions. We want to really thank everyone for just being able to contribute holistically to this entire conversation that is needed in so many different spaces, and I really pray that the department continues to, you know, really foster this sort of podcasts and events, so that more persons will be able to hear and receive more information. Because again, sometimes I find education in this side of the coin or spectrum is limited a lot of time. So with that, we are about to sign off, and want to thank all the listeners, and just to encourage you to explore and understand the dynamics of your relationship. If it's toxic, please find somebody, talk to somebody. If it's healthy, become an advocate. You know, persons, it's needed more than ever before. So with that being said, I'm signing off as your host. You know, you can call me again, eh? It's okay. I'll be fine, you can call me again. And for our next episode, of course, on Power in Partnership on the 9th of December, Fatherhood with a Purpose. Please tune in, please join in. You never know, you might just have an awesome time as well. And I believe you will. So again, thank you for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you on the next episode.